Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast. Steve, Ramona.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. Doing business in life with a purpose. Serving others. Yes, when you serve others, you can achieve success. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. We created this show for you because we want everyone to be motivated, inspired, and educated to make an impact in your world. My guest is going to be incredible today. He's a fellow Italian. My friends out there are going to laugh when I say that, but it's true. And I want you to think about how you're going to serve today. And with that service that you do today, what impact will you create? With that being said, I want to thank my sponsor, pitchdb.com. Be a guest on over 3 million podcasts, speak at over 11,000 conferences, and much, much more. Build your thought leader platform with an incredible opportunity to show who you are. With that being said, Frank, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve.
Welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve, how you doing?
I'm incredible, and I'm so excited to have you on because you get expertise in business. We may fall in more education, but I think when you educate people what you're going to tell us today, it's going to motivate them to go out to do some great things. Because I think LinkedIn is such a power tool. Talk about establishing your personal brand with LinkedIn in that one-page bio.
Yeah, I think, we're living in times where folks are more aware now more than ever that they really need to market themselves and they need to be networked. LinkedIn is obviously the de facto standard to get one's personal brand out there. And you and I were talking earlier, Steve, about how the market is a little tight for some folks at all levels, not only the staff level, but at the executive level. Companies have been cutting back, some of them overhired during the pandemic. On the other hand, rates and the economy are impacting how companies operate, and most are looking to cut costs. The senior executives that are getting cut back are obviously high dollar earners, and I would say that on both sides of the coin, both sectors, the staff level and the executive level, folks tend not to manage their careers as actively as they should. It's too late to start networking when you need to. So the key is, to start your network and manage your network and relationships constantly. So LinkedIn is a great tool to do that. You mentioned the one-page bio as well. That kind of gets into more how you're representing your brand in the marketplace. A one-page bio is a great tool for executives to use to help people not only understand what they do, but it's also a great tool for someone you're networking with to go ahead and refer you. Unfortunately, people have a lot going on. There's a lot on their plates. Make it easier for them to refer you. And one way to do that is to have a one-page bio.
And you're an expert in hiring. Your company's Hire Works. You're going to see audience in the ticker, which I love. The first time we met, I love your attitude about hiring. And yeah, it's a tough market, but you still can succeed. How does LinkedIn help with the hiring process on the other end?
Well, certainly, LinkedIn is a must for anybody to have a presence on. It's not going to work for everyone. For example, in technology, we find that in technology, a lot of engineers who tend to get a lot of calls from prospective employers and a lot of recruiters, they just don't have time to field all the phone calls that they do get. So those roles that are in high demand, some of those folks may shy away from even putting their profiles out there. So you'll find a lot of salespeople out there and so forth. But I think that, it's a must to be on LinkedIn. Make sure that your brand is represented, and that not only that, but you're participating in the conversation. There are group chats that you can participate in, and recruiters like myself and my team are all looking at who's writing papers, who's on Twitter, who's responding to group chats in LinkedIn and answering questions that are in line with some of the roles that we're searching for.
So it's like they're on stage in a sense. This one page bio is, hey, I'm on stage. Hey, Frank, look at me, Steve Ramona. I've got all this expertise and experience.
Well, it's like a resume too,
Oh,
with a resume, you
mhm.
really don't want to provide all the information. You want to give them enough information to intrigue them and want to read more about you. So a lot of resumes, especially senior level resumes, will have a summary. I'm a big advocate of that. The length of the resume isn't really so much an issue today because they're electronic. There should be as much on your resume as is relevant without being redundant. We're not here to write a book, but at the same time, it's very difficult to compress 20 years of experience into one page. So I would tell people not to be as concerned about that. But when you talk about being on stage, your summary sort of focuses and highlights what you've done, and hopefully points to where you did that, how you did it, quantify, qualify wherever you can. That one page bio is something a little bit different. Not everyone may be accustomed to using a one page bio. A lot of salespeople use that type of tool as well, showcasing, marking their product. You need to look at yourself as the product.
Great tip for people. If you're out there trying to get a job, whether it's an executive or 8 to 5, that's a great tip right there. I like the summary part because people, I think, overthink their resumes. You've probably seen that too, where they try to put too much into it.
True. It should be really scannable, enough white space, so aesthetically pleasing. Uh, a lot of people are going to be applying to whatever job you're applying to, and let's face it, this is not a single source sort of solution. The resume may or may not be important. The relationship may be more important than the resume. Um, in many cases, a passive candidate may not even have a resume prepared. A
Mhm.
lot of senior executives, most aren't going to find jobs looking even on LinkedIn. Most are posted at the senior to, I would say, lower level. Those CEO roles you don't find on LinkedIn. So that's where we get into search firms and how to work with search firms, which is another topic you and I talked about. People just don't understand how to really approach the market when they do need to make a career change. And like I said before, building your network when you need to is not the right time to do it. Um, with your show and the whole premise of your show, paying it forward and so forth, I think it goes without saying that we should always be aware that it's a give and take scenario. So when people ask me, Frank, how do I get recruiters to even acknowledge me? Especially the higher level retained firms like we've all heard of, Korn Ferry, Russell Reynolds, Heidrick and Struggles, Egon Zender, those types of firms. Many, even very senior executives, don't get callbacks from those firms. Those folks are very busy. Time is a valuable commodity, and they're curious as to why they don't hear back from anybody. And maybe not all, but in some cases, when they reach out to talk to those firms. Well, the reality is, you know, those people aren't going to come and chase after you unless they've got a role that you're a good fit for. So developing those relationships is super important. Getting on their radar is a whole other issue. There are a lot of ways to do that.
Follow up sounds like really important. You sent it in, maybe 6 weeks later, you follow up. Hey, whatever words you say. Hey, I'm checking in, see where you're at. Is that something that's an
Well,
important tool?
I wouldn't say that that's the right cadence, Steve, but it
Okay.
depends. At the senior level, I would say it's really all about relationship and getting a
Okay.
referral in. If I had to give a really quick, a course on how to network at the senior level, I would say start building your community on LinkedIn if you haven't already. Uh, you're targeting an area, perhaps it's an industry vertical. Look at who you know in that area and look at your second level connections, not just your first level connections. So you have an easy way to warm up a call or even an email to a second level connection because you've got someone in common.
Yeah.
You could reference the person or a particular role, or you might even reference something you read in the business papers, or Wall Street Journal, or Crane's Chicago Business, or one of your local business papers about an investment that was made in the firm, or some initiative that the organization has got underway. And referencing those things to warm up the call is always a good thing to do. You can make those second level LinkedIn connections, first level LinkedIn connections much easier with that common connector, that other person in common. Hey,
Yeah.
we're both connected to, Joe Smith, and I'm reaching out to you for ... Keep it short, keep it sweet. Once you're at the first level, I would encourage you not to try to pounce on them right away. Give it a day or two, and then reach out and ask for more information and perhaps some direction. People are always willing to help. People love to help other people by and large. I could say the majority of people are helpful if you just ask.
Yeah, that key is the ask. And you get two Italians together, we go down a black hole, like from LinkedIn to a resume to this. That's what I love. You gave me this sentence and I absolutely love it. I'm going to borrow it. Your networking conversations need to be a two-way street. Expound it, because that's now getting to the networking that you're saying they need to do. Talk about that.
There was a book out there. I want to say it was Adam Grant wrote a book. What was it called? Give and Take, I think it was called, by Adam Grant. And Harvard Business Review did an article on that as well, where, everyone wonders, how do I get a recruiter to talk to me? Or, how can I help? It could be an internal recruiter as well, because companies are now doing more internally than ever before. External recruiters have always been the hunters, but now corporations have talent teams. And even though they have a lot of other things to do, and that's kind of where our firm helps them leverage the networks that we bring to the table, they're looking for help as well in trying to get to the right people. We help corporations try to get to the right people, whether that's internally or externally. So one way to do that is to have something to offer, whether it's an internal or external recruiter. We all tend to want to absorb information. I think we're all guilty of it. Sometimes you've got your mission on your mind, your objectives are on your mind, but you could easily fail to realize that the other person has needs too. So recruiters are dying for market information on other openings. Of course, not to breach any confidences. If you were at an interview, for example, and you lost the opportunity, they didn't pick you, but they didn't really fill the job, you might give a recruiter a lead, or you might know a candidate that's really a great candidate, or even somebody who's a super networker. Gee, you've got to meet so-and-so. He knows everybody. She knows everybody in this sector. Those kinds of pieces of information are invaluable to a recruiter. That's how to remain top of mind with a recruiter, because I guarantee you, if you make a practice of helping those recruiters and other people in your network, you're going to remain top of mind, and they're going to want to help you naturally.
Great tips. These are $1 million tips. I mean, I'm always talking about two-way street with entrepreneurs. You take it to the next level with your recruitment and going out to get that job. But what's interesting that you wrote your personal brand. So really that executive has to build this brand, and they can do it on LinkedIn or whatever. But how important is that to be a personal brand when you're trying to be recruited?
Well, it's incredibly important. I would encourage anybody to build their brand in a number of different ways. We talk about content marketing now, right? Everyone is a creator. You're a creator, Steve. You've got this platform. There are many people that have YouTube channels and personal web pages and so forth. One easy way to get content out into the marketplace and into the into the business world is to write a paper or participate in a chat, like I mentioned on LinkedIn and one of the groups. So if you would like to get into private equity, which is a sector that we happen to focus in on our retained executive search side and advisory firm, you might want to get into some groups where private equity folks are talking about private equity and their portfolio companies, what they're doing, and go in there and answer some of these questions with some very great responses. And that will get you acknowledged and help create your personal brand. You'll find that people like me and others will want to connect with you. Those are some of the things that we do to identify top talent, that what we call our passive candidates in the market. They may or may not be open to talking about an opportunity, but we're going to reach out to them.
I like this because being a host, not so smart. That's not a bad thing to me, but I love learning. These are some things learning that I could share with others, as a servant heart does. I take your information and go, hey, by the way, I just met Frank, introduce you to him, or hey, here's some tips he gave me. But something that's interesting to me is contingency versus retained in search. I don't understand it, so educate me on what that means.
Yeah, you really need to understand the lay of the land when you're going into this, because it's a new world for most people. You've got contingency versus retained is simply the way a firm is compensated for the work that they do. Much like an attorney might take an injury case and not charge that victim any money until there is an award settlement, if any. So they get a percentage of that settlement. This is the way contingent recruiters operate. We don't make a nickel unless there is a placement, and that's just been that way probably since the dawn of the agency world. It started out back in the 50s with agencies placing temporary workers, secretaries, administrative people, evolved into search, and then the retained businesses came up. Korn Ferry was one of the early ones to come around. And on the retained side, unlike contingent, those firms are paid a fee up front. On a retained engagement, firms like ours that do operate, we have a retained model and a contingent model in two different groups, but we can apply a different level of rigor to a search. So a retained search is much more consultative. We are really working with the heads of the firm, whether that's the CEO, COO, CFO, any CXO you might think of, to bring in the right talent. In order to do that, there's an in-depth intake that takes place. So you've got the people that are retained, who are the only ones working on this particular search, and those people in the contingent world, who are one of many working on a search. So there's a very big difference in the approach and the level of control that a recruiter even has. So many people complain these days about getting ghosted. Have you heard of that one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I submit my resume. I talk to this recruiter, have a great conversation. I never hear from them again. Well, this is much more likely to happen in the contingent world than it is in the retained world. Unfortunately, it happens in both, but it shouldn't happen that way. One of the things that we tell all of our team members to do and train them to do is to manage expectations. It's a respect thing. It's a professionalism thing. It's just the right thing to do. We believe that candidates become clients. So we treat the candidate, which is under no obligation to give us any money whatsoever at any time, but we treat them just like a client, because at the end of the day, when you do what's right for the candidate, you're doing what's right for your client, because you don't want that candidate to take a job and 3 months later or 6 months later or even a year later ask themselves, why am I here? It's not good for your candidate. It's not good for your client. The cost of replacing an individual, Steve, is astronomical. You'll see different numbers out there, but it's at least 1.5 times the income that person earns.
Wow.
Perhaps more, given the opportunity cost. If you think about large deals and salespeople that are involved in multi-million-dollar deals, and the long sales cycles, it could be much, much greater.
That's amazing. Wow. So what is a challenge the executive would have? And all this is great, by the way, audience. This is all great for entrepreneurs. If you're recruiting a client, there's a little changes in it, but this all works like your networking conversations need to be a two-way street. Same with an entrepreneur. Because I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs on there. I don't want you to go, oh God, he's talking about executives. This is great stuff for you guys. I'm learning stuff and I'm an entrepreneur. But what's the challenge that you see or the mistakes that an executive makes when they're trying to be recruited? I mean, there's probably multiple.
When they're trying to be recruited, sometimes, again, I say the biggest one is not having a ready to go network. That's one of the biggest mistakes. I'm a member of, well, many organizations, but some of the organizations I belong to are designed to help people in transition. And we meet every 3 or 4 months. Typically, I'm thinking of one in particular that I won't name. It's a great organization and great people, but it's human nature for people to only come to those events when they need to. Not everyone, but you find a spike and you see a particular individual for a period of months, and then you don't hear from them again. Well, my argument is when you get your next job, come to the next meeting anyway and continue to network with your peers and other recruiters as well. So that's one of the bigger mistakes. I think the other mistake is just not really leveraging their personal network. The easiest way to get a job is through a referral, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm saying that as a search professional.
Yeah.
I can tell you that, some of the best hires are people you know. However, if you don't apply the same rigor to the selection process because you know someone, your neighbor, for example, that's where an entrepreneur can really get into trouble. I'll give you a short example. Had a retained search last year for a controller of a company that was acquired by a multi-billion-dollar organization. I was working with the corporate CFO of the acquiring company. They took the old controller, who was the neighbor of the founders of the firm that they acquired, and well, they had problems. They weren't getting reports on time. They were taking up to 3 months. They chose not to let the person go, but allow this person to stay. And the example I'm giving you is the founders hired their friend and didn't really do their due diligence on whether or not that person could really execute on that job. The mistake this is the other mistake inside this story that entrepreneurs and corporate executives should, take note of, is that person that was the controller and is now being demoted and asked to stay on the team needs a lot of coaching. There is a potential problem there. You have institutional knowledge that person has that you don't want to let go of. And unfortunately, in this situation, this person went sideways, and we helped our client by providing an interim or a fractional executive to come in and fill the gap in between the time when the search started and completed, and in the middle, this person left. So in any case, there's a lot to learn about selection, and I think hiring managers of all kinds, entrepreneurial, corporate, tend not to be great interviewers and great hirers because of unconscious bias, because of their gut feel, et cetera, et cetera. I'm a little biased myself, but I feel like bringing a professional in to do it the right way is going to give you a return on that investment. So.
Yeah, and I like that you say about consistency earlier. That's an important thing. And you're a servant's heart because you're so subtle about this, but what you said was we found them an internal fraction. You didn't walk away from the client and go, hey, he went sideways, see you later, which some people would do with your servant heart. That's why I love working with you and being, having you on the show. You brought somebody in to help them. Whether you got paid or not, you helped them, supported them.
I had to spar with the client to even consider the opportunity to talk to them, because they were like, no, we've talked to the controller. He's completely on board. Everything is fine. And I'm like, okay, well, I want you to talk to my people anyway. And sure enough, when it went sideways, that corporate CFO said, Frank, I'm really glad you helped us dodge a bullet. They wound up actually putting somebody in this role without having to start the interim person up and ramp the person up. But that person and his team was there if the corporate CFO needed them. And I think he learned a valuable lesson.
That's a great story. We're coming to the end of our time here, man. Time flew. This is so cool. I want to have some fun. I want to get a personal question.
Okay.
So what does Frank Scarpelli do on a Friday night?
On a Friday night, I might be at the restaurant my daughter is general manager of, listening to some entertainment there. So I'm a former professional drummer and have a thing for music. So it brings me back.
And I know nothing about music, so I'm very envious of you. What kind of restaurant is it?
It's a Mediterranean restaurant, Greek Mediterranean.
Yeah. Well, when I come to Chicago, I'm going to look you up, and because I love to try it. I'm a foodie, so that's why I like to ask that question, because you learn stuff in a quick question. That's why you said earlier, ask questions.
Yeah, they have some great entertainers there. Some young lady I could think of just backed up Gloria Gaynor. Some really, really sharp. There are so many talented musicians out there that you have no idea, no clue, but they're out there.
Yeah, and they go to places like this.
Yeah.
This has been incredible. How can people reach out to you, Frank, or find you?
Well, hireworks.com is our website. Frank at hireworks.com will get right to me for an email address. Reach out to me. I can set you up with a brief consultation if it makes sense, or I can, help direct you to the right individual that might help you if you have a need or you have a question. And certainly if you're a client company that has a challenge, we do work with private equity on the retained side of the business. That's not solely what we work with. And we have other offerings that would include HR consulting, because we consider ourselves a talent solutions company, and no one solution, Steve, is going to solve everyone's challenge. You really need to have an entree, right? So,
very cool. I love that. Well, thank you again, Frank. This is, like I said, an incredible show. And because Frank gave you so much knowledge, I've got my notepad here full of stuff. Use the forward and reverse buttons to go back and forth on the show. If you find 5 or 6 minutes that really resonate with you, maybe it's the building your network with it and conversing with a two-way street. Embed that in your mind. Get that in your consciousness by listening to it over and over again. Me and Frank would love for you to watch the whole show. But if 5 or 6 minutes or 8 minutes change your life or make a difference in your life, we're both going to be increasingly happy. Don't forget about my TV show, Together We Serve. It's every Friday at 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern. I always forget those dang time zones. And Doing Business with a Servant's Heart swag. Wear that message on your hat, on your head, on your shirt, with a hat, hoodie. I really want to get that message out. You heard Frank today. He's a big servant's heart. That's who people you want to work with. But let's spread this message out to the world, and let's change the world with that. And as always, me and Frank, thank you so much for listening and watching Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. We'll see you on the next episode real soon. Take care.